If you love ghost stories, folklore, and all things mysterious, you need to make a trip to Haunted in downtown Tullahoma, Tennessee. Just a short drive from Nashville, this family-owned Gothic shop is filled with the strange, unusual, and downright fascinating. This isn't a big box store full of mass-produced decorations. Haunted specializes in handmade curiosities, Gothic decor, metaphysical supplies, green witchcraft essentials, and unique pieces created by independent artists. Whether you're decorating or just looking for something you won't find anywhere else, Haunted is worth the trip. Visit them on 125 West Lincoln Street in Tullahoma, or shop online at hauntedstore.net. That's right, hauntedstore.net. Haunted, curated for the strange and unusual. Welcome back to Southern Ghost Stories. I'm the American Haunt Historian, Alan Searcy. Before we get into tonight's episode, I wanted to share something exciting with you guys. As many of you know, I've spent years researching and writing about ghost stories, legends, and folklore. I've written more than 40 books on the subject, and now I'm taking the next step. I'm currently developing a feature-length horror film based on alpine folklore. The project has gained some momentum here lately. I'm working alongside an experienced producer whose credits include projects with Marvel, as well as a horror film that received a theatrical release last year. And we're currently exploring financing opportunities as we move towards production. If you've ever been interested in film investing or becoming involved in independent filmmaking, or you just want to learn more about the project, I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to reach out to me at southernghoststories@gmail.com. We're hoping to begin production later this year, and this could be a unique opportunity to be part of bringing an original folklore-based horror film to the screen. Once again, southernghoststories@gmail.com. Shoot me a line if you're interested or have some questions. So, with all that being said, let's jump into the story. Tonight, we're heading deep into the heart of Jacksonville, Florida, to explore one of the city's oldest and most haunted locations, the Old City Cemetery. And honestly, places like this feel heavy the second you walk through the gates. The sounds of traffic begin fading behind you. Moss hangs from ancient oak branches like funeral drapery. Crumbling headstones lead slowly into the earth, and after surviving hurricanes, floods, heat, and more than a century of Florida weather. Everywhere you look, there are reminders that entire lives once existed here. Soldiers, children, murder victims, businessmen, immigrants, yellow fever victims, and some of Jacksonville's earliest pioneers all rest beneath the cemetery grounds. But according to local legend, not everyone buried there stayed quiet. The Old City Cemetery dates back to the mid-19th century, during a time when Jacksonville was still developing into a major southern city. Long before modern skyscrapers, football stadiums, and interstate highways, Jacksonville existed primarily as a rough river town along the St. Johns River. Trade moved constantly through the area. Sailors, merchants, laborers, gamblers, soldiers, and travelers all passed through the growing city. As Jacksonville expanded, so did the need for burial space. And eventually, the cemetery became one of the city's primary resting places for the dead. Walking through the cemetery today almost feels like walking through a physical timeline of Jacksonville history itself. The graves reflect every layer of the city's past. Some belong to wealthy families who helped shape Jacksonville's business community during the 19th century. Others belong to ordinary citizens who disappeared almost entirely from history except for names fading across cracked marble and weathered stone. The cemetery contains Confederate graves alongside Union sympathizers, politicians buried near laborers, children resting beside Civil War veterans, and entire family plots swallowed gradually by roots and moss. And honestly, that's what makes old cemeteries emotionally overwhelming sometimes. They preserve communities long after the people themselves are gone. You can stand in one small section and realize you're surrounded by people who witnessed yellow fever outbreaks, Reconstruction, slavery, Civil War, fires, and the transformation of Florida from frontier territory into a modern state. One of the darkest periods in Jacksonville history came during the yellow fever epidemic of 1888. Yellow fever terrified 19th century America because people still didn't fully understand how the disease spread. Entire cities panicked whenever outbreaks began. Victims suffered from fever, internal bleeding, vomiting, and organ failure. And once epidemics started, fear spread almost faster than the illness itself. Jacksonville's outbreak became catastrophic. Thousands fled the city trying to desperately escape infection while quarantine restrictions locked down portions of the region. Businesses closed, streets emptied, families isolated themselves behind locked doors, terrified every cough might signal death. Many victims eventually found their final resting places in or near the old city cemetery. Imagine the atmosphere in Jacksonville during those months. Funeral processions became routine, church bells ringing daily. Entire neighborhoods suddenly silent after residents either fled or died. Doctors overwhelmed while priests moved from bedside to bedside, delivering the last rites. Even today, paranormal investigators often claim places connected to epidemics feel emotionally different because of the sheer fear attached to them. And honestly, considering everything the cemetery witnessed during that era, it's easy to understand why people believe something still lingers there. And one of the most unusual people buried in the cemetery is actress Alice Nunn, and she was best remembered for playing Large Marge in the 1985 film Pee-wee's Big Adventure. For an entire generation of kids, her terrifying jump scare face became nightmare fuel after late-night cable viewings. But while Alice Nunn draws curious movie fans to the cemetery, the location's most famous legend centers around someone else entirely, Marie Louise Gato. And honestly, her story feels less like ordinary history and more like a Southern Gothic tragedy. Marie Louise belonged to one of Jacksonville's wealthiest Cuban families during the late 19th century. Her father, Gabriel, owned the city's largest cigar factory, and he became one of Jacksonville's most successful businessmen. The Gato family represented wealth, prestige, and influence. Marie herself reportedly turned heads wherever she went. She was a pretty girl. Newspapers and local accounts described her as beautiful, refined, and widely admired in Jacksonville society circles. But beneath the elegance and social status, her personal life had become increasingly troubled because of a relationship with a guy named Edward George Pitzer. At first, Pitzer seemed like an appropriate match socially. He came from money himself and moved comfortably among Jacksonville's upper class. But eventually, the relationship, it deteriorated badly. According to reports, Pitzer he was possessive and volatile as tensions between the two increased. Then on the evening of April 20th, 1897, everything exploded into violence. That night, Marie returned home to her family's residence in North Springfield. As she approached the gate leading onto the property, gunfire suddenly erupted from the darkness. Bullets struck the pretty 19-year-old girl as she entered the yard, mortally wounded. Marie Louise staggered toward the house, bleeding heavily before collapsing inside, while terrified family members rushed to help her. And before she died, Marie reportedly made one final declaration. According to witnesses, she identified Edward George Pitzer, the man she was courting, as the man who shot her. She claimed he had emerged from behind bushes near the property and opened fire. The murder horrified Jacksonville. Newspapers became obsessed with the case. The story contained everything people devoured during the 19th century: wealth, romance, jealousy, betrayal, violence, and of course, courtroom drama. And once Pitzer's trial began, the city became consumed by it. The courtroom overflowed daily with people hoping to witness the drama unfold in person. Witnesses described the troubled relationship while lawyers battled over conflicting testimony and suspicious inconsistencies surrounding the murder itself. And yet, despite Marie's dying accusation, many people found Pitzer strangely charismatic. In fact, newspaper accounts described female admirers flooding the courtroom daily, hoping to catch a glimpse of him. And some reportedly sent flowers and gifts directly to his jail cell. Imagine how bizarre and infuriating that must have felt to Marie's family. Their daughter lay buried in the cemetery while the accused killer effectively became a celebrity. And eventually, the jury acquitted him. Not guilty. The verdict shocked huge portions of Jacksonville. Rumors immediately spread accusing wealthy interests and social influence of protecting Pitzer from conviction. Even after the trial ended, whispers of corruption lingered throughout the city for years. And because so many people believed justice never truly came from Marie, the ghost stories soon followed. According to legend in Jacksonville, Marie never completely left the old city cemetery. For generations, visitors have claimed to see a ghostly woman dressed in white wandering around the graves late at night. Some describe her as glowing faintly beneath the oak trees, while others report seeing only a shadow female figure drifting silently through the cemetery before disappearing entirely. And years ago, I met a lady named Cindy who grew up in Jacksonville. And she and I got to talking, and she admitted that she and her friends used to sneak into the cemetery after dark as teenagers, hoping to encounter the ghost there. And according to Cindy, one night they wandered near the Confederate graves when they heard strange sounds coming from the section where Marie was buried. When Cindy looked up, she claimed she saw what appeared to be a shadowy mist forming the outlines of a woman moving silently through the darkness. The group immediately ran from the cemetery like their hair was on fire. And she later admitted she never returned there after dark. I don't think I would either. Now, maybe it was imagination, maybe moonlight filtering through the moss and fog, or maybe it was something else that still walks there. And honestly, the old city cemetery feels exactly like the kind of place where stories like that survive naturally. The cemetery contains layers upon layers of tragedy connected to Jacksonville's past. Civil War dead, yellow fever victims, children, murder victims, entire generations buried beneath old trees while the modern city grew around them. Places like that collect stories over time. They collect grief, memory, fear, and legend, until eventually history and folklore just begin to blend together. And that's especially true about the South, where old cemeteries often become woven directly into local identity. Families pass stories down for generations. Kids grow up hearing warnings about ghosts. And after time, the legends become inseparable from the place itself. And what fascinates me the most about Jacksonville's old city cemetery is how perfectly it preserves the forgotten side of the city. Modern Jacksonville moves constantly. Traffic rushes past, downtown changes, buildings rise and disappear. But inside that cemetery, time slows down. You can still stand among the graves belonging to people who witnessed some of the darkest and most transformative periods in Florida history. And somewhere beneath those oak trees rests Marie, the 19-year-old girl whose murder captivated Jacksonville more than a century ago. And some say she's still waiting for justice. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you check out my book, Ghost Stories from Graveyard Tales, Florida. I dive deeper into the haunted history of Florida. So many great stories from Castle Warden in St. Augustine. I did an episode on that a week or two ago. There's so much great folklore in Florida. The book is available on Kindle too. If you have Kindle Unlimited, you can read it for free. Yeah, Ghost Stories and Graveyard Tales, Florida. Go find it. It's a fun read. And don't forget my newest book, Pistols of Red River. It's available now. You can grab a copy over at Amazon. It's a whole lot of fun. The Andrew Jackson Doolin story. There's something fun about guys dressing up in suits and going to shoot each other in the field. That's how it was back in 1806. You had to defend your woman's honor. Also, have you guys been to Monster City Madhouse yet? MonsterCityMadhouse.com. Their new Creature from the Black Lagoon shirt is a whole lot of fun. Who says monsters can't have a work-life balance? The Lagoon Life shirt celebrates everyone's favorite gill man living his best swamp life with his family. And whether he's teaching his kids to do the backstroke or just vibing by the lagoon, this vintage t-shirt proves that even creatures from the deep deserve a tropical vacation. Perfect for horror fans who appreciate a little domestic bliss, monster style. And don't forget to use promo code SAVE10 to get 10% off your order. That's right, go to MonsterCityMadhouse.com, type in code SAVE10 to get 10% off your order. And if you haven't already, make sure you're following or subscribing wherever you listen. Leave a rating if you can, and share the show with someone who's into true crime, ghost stories, or weird history. That stuff matters more than people think. Also, be sure to follow Southern Ghost Stories on Facebook and Instagram. And don't forget, if you're interested in learning more about the film project I'm working on, possibly investing, send an email to southernghoststories@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to Southern Ghost Stories. I'm Alan Searcy, the American Historian, and I will see you guys the next time. Monster City Madhouse, a year-round online store full of Halloween and classic horror shirts, with an emphasis on the vintage look. Use code SAVE10 for 10% off your order. MonsterCityMadhouse.com. Free shipping and financing is available. If you love ghosts, cryptids, UFOs, and everything that goes bump in the night, then mark your calendars for the West Kentucky Paranormal Expo, happening September 26 in Mayfield, Kentucky at the Mayfield Graves County Fairgrounds. This incredible one-day event brings together some of the biggest names in the paranormal community, including Aaron G. Thompson from Netflix's 28 Days Haunted, Jimmy and Jeffrey from Outlaw Paranormal, The Wind of Rose, Josh Morris, Michael Huntington, Rachel Ravensville, and many, many more special guests and speakers. Your admission is just $15, and that gets you an all-day come-and-go wristband so you can explore at your own pace. Browse more than 35 vendors, enjoy delicious food trucks, attend speaker presentations and panels, meet investigators, hear incredible stories, and dive into the worlds of hauntings, cryptids, UFOs, and the unexplained. Whether you're a seasoned ghost hunter or just curious about the mysteries that surround us, there's something for everyone at the West Kentucky Paranormal Expo. Tickets are on sale now. For more information, visit West Kentucky Paranormal Expo on Facebook and get ready for one of the most exciting paranormal events of the year. We'll see you in Mayfield on September 26th.